What would you say to young people, and I'm aware more and more young people want to become vegetarians. They like the whole idea of raw food, and, using maca and spirulina and baobab and making smoothies and going vegetarian and raw
Yeah. Okay. So
because of ethics.
the ethics are really, really important. I mean, my ethics system and Rachel's ethics system are very strong towards farmers doing a good job, farmers caring about their plants and their animals and providing us with something that is healthy and not commercialized and done on big scale. So ethics we're absolutely fully on board with. If it's ethics around not killing animals, that's a tougher one. And if their belief stops there, then I'll respect that and I need to educate them as fully as possible with, okay, what are the alternatives to provide enough protein for your body? If the ethics are more towards our animal cruelty, then there are some farmers doing a good job. They ultimately still kill the animals.
Is there something like, a nice way of killing an animal?
Big question mark. It depends on your beliefs, really. So I believe in the times of old, and we lived with the animals, and there's a lot more codependence. The old image of Jamie Oliver comes to mind when he toured Italy and he slaughtered a sheep on a farmer's farm. So it got the whole of the British public up in arms the day after, it was shown on TV. We need to accept that, animal produce comes from killing animals. And if that's too much, then, be vegetarian or vegan, but you need to know how to provide enough protein for your own body. So it's a big area, and it's not one that I'm big on going into. I will deal with it on a client-to-client basis and understand what their ethics are. Okay, and those ethics do change because, as I say, we are omnivores, so we are designed to have a little bit of animal produce in our diet. So that will change over time as the body's needs change. And I'll just add something into that discussion. One of my favorite books is The Blue Zones, which was a National Geographic study looking for hotspots of centurions around the world, i.e. people living to 100, healthy body, healthy mind. And one of the 5 zones, I think, is vegetarian. All the others weren't vegetarian, but it was only small amount of meat consumption. If they're close to water, there'd be fish in there, there'd be dairy in there. So they weren't vegan, but there would be slaughtering of an animal for a small community, for example. On average, I think they calculated once every 2 weeks they would eat meat. But there'd be fish and dairy in their diet. So it was almost vegetarian, but not quite. So they didn't say, right, we're in the vegetarian box, or no, we're in the animal eating box. It's just a blur.
But aging optimally, there's so many factors to that, from being in a community, playing music, being grateful, there's doing something crafty, walking, exercise, all of that adds to longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those things. So diet's a part of it, but the whole Mediterranean principles we mentioned earlier, they come into healthy aging. But my point there was, meat is in the society of these healthy centurions, but not much. So I believe that the average person in South Africa and westernized modern world eats too much meat. But we shouldn't go to the extreme pendulum swing and suddenly stop totally. But we need to waken up to the fact that we need to eat less and be more responsible with the ethical sourcing of it.
So Ian, what advice would you give, especially teenagers and young adults at university wanting to do meal replacements
Yeah.
with superfoods, smoothies, and cut out meat and practice ethical living. What advice would you give them?
Well, firstly, it's understanding where your protein comes from if you're not eating meat. If they're vegetarian, it's a bit easier because dairy contains a lot of protein. Eggs, if you consume those, have a lot of protein in. But with the consciousness around food, bring in that to sourcing, whether it's animal or non-animal. So if you're vegetarian, don't just have milk and standard supermarket yogurt as your mainstay, because a lot of vegetarians do that. Okay, well, I'm eating yogurt, so I get enough protein. But the commercial yogurts add milk solids in. And I've already said that milk is one of the highest sensitivities that I pick up with gastrointestinal issues. So for some, that's a fast track to gut problems. Rather, find the dairies that are actually doing a good job in making old-fashioned yogurt. On the label, it should just be milk and cultures and nothing else. And then you get kefir, dairy kefir, which is a more evolved fermentation of milk. And I believe strongly that that's how we used to drink most of our dairy. And then with regards to vegan sources of protein, we're very reliant on seeds, nuts, grains, and the protein combining thing I mentioned earlier. So most vegans need to basically do the grain and legume, so lentils and rice, or beans and toast, but it has to be decent quality toast, or it could be nuts and grains in some combination. So it could be like a nut butter on a oat cake, for example. That would be a protein combining. That's the basis of veganism, to get enough protein in. But now we've got the raw food vegan sort of era. You can't obviously cook grains and legumes, so it's much more reliance on like hemp seed powder and spirulina powder and nuts.
Crushed ice and berries.
Yeah, and then nuts and seeds for the protein, and they all have protein in them. Nuts are often overconsumed by vegans, so nuts are a good source of protein, but they're also one of the primary things I find as a food sensitivity. So you might be actually fast tracking your gut towards imbalance by having too many nuts. I've gone to raw food vegan buffets and often come back with a sore belly, because it's just nuts and this and nuts and that and that.
It's not just because you overate.
So, well, that as well, but there's a difference between overeating this or that. Yeah, nuts are obviously very calorie dense. Some people think they can eat as many as they want because they're doing raw food vegan. Then others are scared of nuts, so it's different mindsets. But then you've also got the reliance on smoothies to get the protein intake. So I believe hemp protein powder is quite a good thing. But is it good to eat every day? That's just a question mark. And then spirulina, I've read leaflets saying that spirulina's got a higher protein count than meat. So maybe it has. But when did you last eat a 200-gram steak of spirulina powder? I struggle to get 1 teaspoon in my smoothie without it overwhelming my smoothie. And that's with banana and pineapple to try and get the balance to the flavour.
Pineapple and banana.
So there's only so much we can have of it. So therefore we can't rely on something like spirulina to get our protein count up. So your average vegan will be sitting on a low protein count.
If you disguise it in chocolate, raw cacao powder.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, is that your strategy?
I'm sticking to it.
So there's the sort of strategies, but we're kind of limiting ourselves a bit to over-reliance on nuts and seeds and powders. And I would argue that we're not designed to drink our food. I think the smoothies are wonderful and we do them, but I see them more as a snack to fill between a meal, or hey, you're in a rush one day and it's a really nice breakfast substitute, or my gut's a bit out of balance because I've been rushing around and not eating so well so much. So I'm going to have a few days just a nice simple light breakfast to calm my gut down. That works well as well. But I think real food, whole food is real food.